If you're unfamiliar, a game jam is a contest event for game developers to put their heads together and make something cool in a very limited time frame, often with a specified theme. Today we're looking at MechJam on itch.io, which is of course a mech-themed game jam. This is the 7th year of the jam, and it ran from June 18th to July 2nd. While every game here has to include mecha of some sort to be valid, there were some optional themes as well, like Safari, Cartographer, and Dungeon Crawl. Today I'm going to be taking a peek at the winners. This year, 59 games were submitted. There are a few categories of winners, as each game is judged by a few different metrics. We'll take a look at the overall highest score, the fun factor, visuals, audio, and also originality winners. If a game took the number one spot in more than one category, instead of looking at it a second time, we'll move over to the second place winner. Also note, because this was a timed game jam, the games present here aren't meant to be fully finished and polished projects, as much as learning experiences or proofs of concept for developers. Remember, all of these were created in only 2 weeks, so let's check them out. But before we get too deep into it, hi, I'm Empty. I'm a bit of a mech noob who discovered I really liked big robots. I've decided to make it my mission here to check out every mech game ever made and record my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on this YouTube channel. If you'd like to keep up with me, feel free to hit the sub button. Thanks. First up, the overall winner, Meet Mech Dungeon. This one was of course made in 2 weeks for the jam and crafted in Godot 4.7. It was made by a group going by Team Omen. They took inspiration from things like wizardry, alien, and ant colonies to make a turn-based dungeon crawler. In Meet Mech Dungeon, you play as a KLVN meat mech while navigating the ruins of Novalis 4. The interesting thing here is that instead of being a little man made of meat inside of a machine made of metal, we've got an opposite thing going on. You're a little metal guy riding around in a machine made of flesh. This means your stats are things like blood, bile, meat, nerve, and so on. Different types of attacks take up different resources like bones, and you've got a limited amount of equipable space in your inventory. When you do need something, like a heal, you can just consume the item pickups. And of course, map navigation is a big old maze. You do get a screen that maps out which tiles you've been to or not, but watch out, sometimes walls contain hidden passageways. This one was pretty fun and a lot higher quality than I had expected out of a game jam game. Initially, my idea was to play through each and every winning game and do a live reaction sort of video, but I think I spent a couple hours in Meet Mech Dungeon, and I still hadn't made it to the end, and I decided that a scripted video would perhaps be more time pertinent. I also liked how things swung around in the mech as you moved, and the general, death metal type artistic twinge present in things like the fonts. Super cool. Coming up as the fun factor winner, we've got a game named Metro Guardian X by The Lazy Dog, Elliot Anderson, and Chaos 1001. This one got a classic anime aesthetic and plays as a third-person action game. Your grandpa's just a bit too old to help out with the distress calls around the city, but he's crafted you, a giant robot, to go save the day. You get a few weapons like Gatling guns, lock-on missiles, and a sword for melee. NPCs are littered around the cityscape with tasks for you to complete. These tasks seem to always revolve around blowing up waves of baddies who fly over the skyscrapers in their evil little spaceships. At the end of each day, you'll be prompted to spend your earnings on stat upgrades. I really liked the city in this one. Flying around in between all the different apartment blocks and dashing up the towers to stand at the top and blast down the planes in a great cartoony explosion was pretty cool. I wish more mecha games were set in such a modern and dense environment instead of sci-fi megastructures and open wildernesses. I also really liked the soundtrack here. They really nailed down the anime audio as it felt like I was playing a cartoon. I'd definitely play this one on a Saturday morning with a bowl of my favorite childhood cereal. Since Meet MechJam placed first for visuals, we'll take a look at the runner-up, Laika. This one crafts a world of augmented warrior animals as they pilot mechs around a map to both defend their base and destroy enemies in 1v1 battles. So I guess it fit pretty well in the secondary theme for the challenge of Cartographer. Anyways, it was made by Charzia, Nightchild, and Ravitex. Gameplay-wise, this one is heavy on the logistical side. You gotta select pilots, build their mechs, and then order them around the map. They'll do different functions, like collect resources, which you use for building more, or simply scout around, or fight. The main gameplay is pretty minimal graphically, as it's a grid of moving dots. However, the interim scenes have some very cool, rusted and gritty, painterly artwork of the mechs and the characters. I really like this one for the audio. What plays during the gameplay sections is really haunting and dissonant, which really elevated things for me. Metro Guardian X was the winner of the audio category, so we'll take a peek at the runner-up, which was The AI in the Stone by Wandering Artist. This one is a really short appetizer. It's a single delicious bite. I guess you'd call it a walking simulator, or maybe a visual novel. Basically, it's a retelling of The Sword in the Stone, but instead of a sword, it's a giant robot. This machine has been abandoned by humanity, but now they wish for its return as a savior against an unseen enemy. So you talk with some NPCs and crawl your way inside before you reboot the thing. This one is pretty beautiful and abstract. It's very atmospheric and charming. I really love the idea of Arthurian legend retold with mecha, and of course this dark age of technology angle that is involved here too. Winning out the originality category, we've got Squirrel and Hedgehog Yom Kippur War spin-off with mechs by Protozaire Numerique. The characters of Squirrel and Hedgehog were inspired by a North Korean cartoon of the same name, and the war setting was lifted from the historical conflict during the October of 1973. Visually, we're looking at artwork that was all hand-drawn with coffee, coal, and different watercolor techniques. Musically, what we've got going on really reminds me of Muslim Gauze, some more experimental, ambient sort of electronica. Gameplay-wise, this is another real short. You're first prompted with a choice of story for characters Siak or Eunice. The first puts you on a side scroll as you control a walking mech across the land. You shoot other mechs, soldiers, and aircraft as you make your way across the battlefield. The next takes a more Robotech approach and has your mecha in the form of a half-jet, half-mech. This level didn't seem to make it to the finished state, as a swarm of unsurmountable battleships end up appearing, and I don't think you can actually complete it. And I think that's all we've got for today. If you played any of these MechJam games and want to give a shout out to one that wasn't featured, go ahead and let us know down in the comments which one you think we should check out. Thanks.